Hello, welcome. We've got our last and final Midwife Monday here in Sedona. So I have a nice blank wall behind me because everything is packed up. So this will be the last time that you see this space and the last time I'm probably in it for much of anything at all, which is definitely feeling a little sad, but I know there are such good things to come on our move and in our new place. So I'm going to not feel too sad today. Although I'm not sure where I'll be doing these from once I resume in August. I'm going to take July off, as I've shared, the last Monday in June and July off, and we will resume this in August. And I don't know what will be behind me at that point. Hopefully there's not a bunch of kids running around, but there might be, I suppose, since I won't have an office space, at least outside of the house. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to Midwife Monday. Hello, Dahlia. Anybody else want to say hi and where they're from? That is always so appreciated, so I don't feel alone. It's easy to feel alone here on YouTube. I hate to tell you, but it's a sort of awkward thing. I would love to hear where you're from. I would also love to hear what question or topics you have, because I'm going to pick one of those today. I don't have anything on my mind, I don't think. Sometimes it takes another direction, but at the moment I don't. So I would appreciate some topics. And after I pick a card and probably talk more, then we will be off. Oh, so many fun places and people. Yes, happy solstice, Jill and Dahlia. Happy solstice, everybody. June 21st. We've got the longest day of the year here so that we can eke out every last minute of packing, apparently. And it is hotter than heck. And we have fires here, so the air quality is really poor. And that is sad. It's sad when that happens, obviously, in a beautiful sky, and there's lots of forests being destroyed right now. And also, selfishly, I thought I may not get out for too many more hikes here. And that's really sad. Like, I may have to brave the smoke and go do it, because I have got to do a couple more and say goodbye to this land, at least for now. But it's pretty bad out, despite it being solstice, which is really a magical time of year. And lots of new ideas and intentions are coming in for me, and probably for all of you, right? Because traditionally, this would be the time to let go of things that aren't working and embrace the new. And that is exactly what's happening here, literally. Right? So we're moving, we're definitely letting go of the old, embracing the new. So very perfect timing, you know, and it's so amazing how timing is everything. And all the planning in the world, if you're tuned in, and I think I'm mostly tuned in, not always, but all the planning in the world sort of doesn't matter, because you'll wind up doing the things at the perfect time. So I didn't really plan to move around solstice, but that's how it worked out. So just follow the curve, and here we are. It's solstice. And actually next Monday is my birthday. So I have solstice and my birthday. I'm kind of a solstice baby, not exactly. And that's feeling kind of cool too. And then we'll be in our new house shortly after my birthday. So I'm hoping that's my goal, or else we're going to spend my birthday possibly, I don't know, in some other place right before we get there, which if I do, I do. So hello, all new people. Gabriella, I recognize so many of you. Ricky and Haley. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to be 44 next Monday, which Jill will agree, having been in the witchery class, and because she's also very wise. That's a magical number, right? I've got the double digits going there, and also the combined numerology of 8 with 44. So I think it's going to be a great year. I'm just so looking forward to like all of the changes. I actually just did a Zoom call with some people that live there, and it was so green. I'm talking about Kentucky, by the way. So green. They kind of put the camera around. I got to see their beautiful maple trees on their property. The birds were so loud that it was hard to hear them. And it really felt so right and beautiful. So that was a really special time. And they seem like very special people who already live in this community, who already, exist and are trying to, I think, do a good job with supporting each other. So I'm even more excited to get there now. To know people before I even get there, even minimally, is a blessing. And I think we're going to just the right place. Yes, we'll get clouds. So I'll get to do some scrying in the clouds, which you really can't do here. I mean, the level of smoke today is so heavy that you can't really see anything in the sky. Oh boy. Let's pick a card, and then I'm going to go back and read the comments and see kind of where this goes, because there's so many ways it can go. I so appreciate the comments. I don't think anyone gets offended if, sometimes I don't do that topic. So I obviously can't do all of them. But you can always message me or post on the social, even better. Social.indiebirth.org, and let us know your question. Oh, Haley, that's very sweet. Although, what is age, I mean, I feel like the older I get, the less I understand what we're actually talking about. Because I feel great. I feel young and vibrant and healthy, and, that's great. I'm so grateful for that. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to talk about all of these things. Along the Kentucky lines, for some reason, it's just been coming up a lot, I guess, because we're going there, right? Like, it's on my radar now. We're going to make our home there. And just a lot of people have been coming forward saying like, oh, like, I want to check it out. I want to live there. We have a friend coming on our road trip as of this morning. Super awesome guy here. It's going to drive my dogs. And that was the answer to a prayer. So it's cool to see people's curiosity about that area if they haven't ever been there. And I actually have lived in that area, so I'm excited, but it's not going to be brand new to me. But yeah, there is something about Kentucky. I really think so. I may have said this, but someone sent me an email, and it may have been one of you. Maybe it was you, Felicia. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But just about the quartz being in the ground there. It's a magical place. I know it is, because honestly, I don't think I would be being led somewhere that wasn't magical, right? It's just the normal route. So I don't know. I don't know what will happen there. And I'm just so looking forward to all of it. Okay, let's choose our card. Again, this is the last card in Sedona here. And maybe I'll retire this deck for a little bit. I've been using it for a couple of months here. I've gotten some new decks in the last little bit, and I'm curious to, see where I'm at in a month. I have a new tarot deck I want to explore. In fact, I have an entire workbook that goes with it, and I'm super excited to work on this on the road trip. That might sound so nerdy, and I'm happy to drive too. I'm happy to split it with Jason, but usually he doesn't care. So aside from screaming children and all of the craziness that a 26-hour road trip is, I'm going to be sitting there studying tarot and this new deck I got. So maybe I'll feel confident enough to share that. I've always been a little scared of tarot for whatever reason. It's just like overwhelmed me. So anyway, oh dear, maybe it's time to turn that thing off. Let's turn that off. Where did it go? Where did you guys go? Okay, cool. All right. This is our card for today. Maybe we'll take a couple breaths together. I'm going to. I got my feet on the floor here, which is hard to do where I usually sit because I'm so short. But I'm going to get my feet on the ground here and just see what wants to be told to us today. Offered, rather, not told, offered. Cool. Manifestation. Have I pulled this one before? I don't think recently. But there's that magical bunny rabbit. And yeah, I am floored with the manifestation that has happened to make this whole move possible. And I'm not going to go through every step because a lot of you know the whole story and it's all on podcasts everywhere. But truly, this has been so magical. Like logistically, like practically, it never should have happened. Never should have happened. It was impossible on paper. So I'm just here to tell you that when you embrace the possibilities, things really do happen. Things you never thought could happen. I mean, I was just saying to my husband here, like, here's a good example. And I don't know that I shared this one on a podcast. Like to make this whole house thing happen, we had to like get a lot of money, to a place. And that was sort of challenging for a couple of reasons. So, path of least resistance was like to open another account, which I didn't really want to do, but I kept being led in that direction. So I did it. It was super easy. The money got where it was going. And the account doesn't exist. I need to go close it. And it doesn't even show up like on online banking. So it literally worked for the day that I needed it to work. And then it became, I don't know, it vanished somewhere. So I look back and I'm like, that never should have worked. That never should have happened. There were a million reasons why that should not have worked. Any of it, not just that step, all of the steps. And now getting there, I've been like, oh, these dogs, how do I get my dogs there? And we had a couple of ideas come in and they did not feel right. So that's my other humble piece of advice this morning. Not advice, but just like sharing, humble sharing. If it doesn't feel right, just pack that away in your brain somewhere. And I kept following it because I was like, well, we might be desperate. So this does not feel right. This person is not going to work out, but I will just follow it until something else comes in. And like I said, this morning, this friend just out of nowhere was like, I'm in. And I was bold and blunt. And I was like, at the risk of sounding neurotic, are you 100% in? Because I need to know. So I can do away with this other idea. And he's like, nope, I'm 100% in. So prayers have been answered. Manifestation has fully happened. And if all goes well, we will be out of here on Friday and we will be driving and there by Monday or Tuesday, probably. I'm seeing if this booklet has anything else. Yep, I don't think so. We all know what manifestation means. And I think most of us know how powerful we are in that. And if you don't, well, that's something to ponder and explore. I will be doing another witchery class in September, and the one we just wrapped up was really awesome. So thank you everyone here that participated in that. It was really awesome. It was really fun. It reminded me of so many things, and really it supported me during these last few weeks to stay focused on what's ultimately important, right? It's so easy to get blown away by the winds of change and uncertainty and forget what is actually in our control. So I was so grateful to the women that were in this class with me. I mean, we created a virtual circle that felt so powerful. Like, honestly, you could just feel it. And it's similar here, I think we have a nice circle here, even though it's not quite the best not being able to see people. So same idea though, just support and feeling each other's energy. All right, well, cards for the day being put away. And on to at least a short amount of time today, talking about some birth stuff. Let's see. Let me read. Yeah, hi, Sierra. It's nice to have you here. I recognize you from the, I almost said surgery. Oh my gosh, I'm reading Haley's comment. I recognize you from the social, not the surgery. Diastasis recti. So yeah, let's talk about that for a few minutes. So for those of you that don't know, that refers to an abdominal separation of the muscles. So, we have the muscles coming down our abdomen. I always forget the names of things like this, but, usually a normal amount of space, they're pretty close together. But when our uterus grows in pregnancy, and there are other reasons why this would happen as well, not anything to do with pregnancy, honestly, but often in pregnancy, when the uterus grows, these abdominal muscles end up separating a little bit, or a lot, depending on all kinds of factors. So to have a diastasis, to be diagnosed with a diastasis, isn't that odd. Most women will have one after a baby. Not all. I've met and had many clients that don't, for whatever reason. I check for it with them in the postpartum time, just so they know what's going on with their bodies. And we usually quantify it with how many fingers you can fit into the hole that is between the muscles, right? So some people have not even a finger breadth. Some people have 3 finger breaths worth of space in between. I certainly have. I probably still do, after pregnancy, after birth rather, there is the opportunity, I think, to close it maybe a little bit more. But ultimately, we are not separate in our physiology. So by that, I mean, the diastasis doesn't stand alone. We have our whole abdominal cavity and our diaphragm. And then on the other end, we have our pelvic bowl and our pelvic floor. So simplistically put, all of these things, the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, everything that's in between, the pelvic bowl, the abdominal muscles, everything is related. And I guess I think of it kind of like rubber bands in a sense, right? You can have rubber bands that are too tight and they're not very flexible, right? And you can have rubber bands that are too loose and also aren't very flexible. So the idea with pelvic floor stuff and all of this is this image of flexibility and learning to move our bodies in maybe a more natural way so that we can return to everything doing what it should do rather than be too tight or be too loose, which I think there's a lot of misconception out there, certainly around something like Kegels, right? So many women still think Kegels are a good idea, and they're really obsessed with making their pelvic floor super duper tight, or they never breathe into their pelvic floor. So that whole musculature is super inflexible in one direction or another. So, there's so many things, and I'm not an expert at all. Katie Bowman, as mentioned, is one of the experts. She's a biomechanist and has made it her life's work to study how our bodies work and how to regain our flexibility and to close things like a diastasis. I guess we all just have to decide for ourselves what is actually a problem, right? So a diastasis can be feeling like weakness. It can make your back feel weak. Lots of baby wearing, I found, is terrible for a diastasis. I try not to wear my baby actually very much at all. And ultimately, we each have to decide if it's a problem for us, because we have the functional side and then certainly the cosmetic side. If your diastasis is pretty wide, you feel like you kind of have a pooch, you feel like you look pregnant. And again, I've been there and I'm working with mine too. I'm just taking the big picture route, and for me, it's about staying strong and healthy and understanding what makes it worse and what makes it better. I'm sure you all know here, but doing tons of crunches, there are ways to really make it worse. And that's where people that haven't even birthed. So women that haven't ever birthed, men, many people have a diastasis just by simply using their bodies kind of incorrectly. So I do appreciate Katie Bowman's information. However, I think it's really overwhelming sometimes. I don't know about you, but I've just felt like it's a million more things on a list of things I don't have time for, if that makes sense. And you may not feel that way. I mean, I think she's brilliant and I like her resources. But for me, I've just decided to live my life. And as I get further from having babies, there's more opportunity there to work on it if I choose. Because having babies every 2 years for the last 20 years, I've just thrown up my hands personally. I mean, what is there to do? Because by the time I feel like I could work on it, I've been pregnant again. So I may not be the person to ask, but there's all kinds of other corrective core type people out there. I'm trying to think. Lauren O'Hayan, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her work. I actually haven't taken her course, but I've always liked her, and I would actually tried to buy her course and it didn't work. So I was like, well, I guess that's a sign from the universe. I'm not supposed to buy her course. But that's somebody, I think it's called Restore Your Core. And there's all kinds of other women out there with like systems to help it. So I say just do what works. But I like to just, I don't know, it's not easy, but I take the easy track of just like getting out there and hiking and using my body in that way. And I do work out, but I try to be mindful of the exercises that I'm doing. O'Hayan, it's Ohayon, Lauren O'Hayan. And I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think Restore Your Core is the name of her. And I've always just liked her. I don't know where I ever found her, probably Instagram or something. I feel like I've talked to her personally. I just like her energy. She's kind of like really badass and not about like, I don't know, like improving ourselves for anybody else kind of vibe, like just for our own health and our own wellness and having fun doing it. So yeah, good. You found it. All right, let's end that topic. Not that it wasn't a good one, but I don't have too much more to say about it. Ricky, that is such a beautiful question. And, it's not even a question. It's just a beautiful topic. So the divine masculine and the divine feminine in midwifery and birth work. Yeah, that's a great podcast topic, perhaps. Let's see. Maybe I'll come back. Maybe we'll end with that one. And we'll see. Someone had a question here about ultrasound. Okay, Gabriella, I'm currently pregnant. I just have one ultrasound at 20 weeks. I'm 20 weeks based off of the cycle. Okay, so the ultrasound said you were less pregnant than the LMP date. I think that's what you're saying. They want me to do a lot of testing. Oh, I see. So they're saying your baby's measuring small. Right. So, well, let's talk about cycles for a minute. And you may or may not have this information, Gabriella, and I understand that. Sometimes people don't know when they got pregnant. But my suggestion just in general would be to, if you can, and this is maybe an if, isolate the time of conception. That might sound obvious, but the LMP due date is based on a day 14 of your cycle conception. That's what it's based on. So any wheel you use, any app you use, that's how it works. Some women ovulate, and that's conception. That's considered conception for the sake of our conversation. Some women ovulate at day 14, but we're not textbooks, right? So you, Gabriella, if you're able to isolate that, that would be helpful. So if you didn't ovulate till, day 21, then you add an extra week to that alleged due date you have. So to be 3 weeks off would mean probably the obvious. You maybe sort of skipped a cycle and didn't ovulate until well after, 3 weeks after you thought, or the ultrasound is just wrong because 20 weeks is fairly late for getting an accurate date. And I can't recall exactly how many weeks off they are allowed to be in either direction. But certainly 20 weeks, babies start to take on more of the genetics, if that makes sense. So if you get an ultrasound at 6 weeks and I get an ultrasound at 6 weeks, our babies are, if those dates are accurate, our babies are pretty much identical in a normal situation, right, in growth. But by the time you get to 20 weeks and beyond, growth happens due to genetics, due to maternal caloric intake, right? Those are two ways that sizes of babies can really vary. And there's just the user error and the inaccuracy of ultrasound in general. So that, definitely creates some misalignment, perhaps, between all of it, between caregivers, between caregiver and the woman, between the dates in general. It just becomes a giant confusing mess when there's that much discrepancy. So if you're not sure when you ovulated, it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say if the dates are just off, or if the ultrasound is just not a good one, or if your baby isn't growing well. Although, from experience, I would say that's less likely at that gestation, if that makes sense. So 28 weeks, 32 weeks, that's when babies are like most rapidly growing to the end. So that is when, if a baby isn't growing well, I feel like it's noticeable. It's been noticeable to my hands, and sometimes the mom too. And she may also not be gaining weight, etc. But at 20 weeks, there's not a whole lot. There's definitely growth for sure, but it's not the same kind of rapid growth. So I don't want to give you bad advice, though. I think if there is an answer, it's just to tune in. And I think you did say you didn't feel like anything was wrong. So, right, you either have a longer cycle, and not just a long cycle. We're talking about a skip cycle, most likely, unless your cycles are super irregular. But even so, I guess I'm saying the same thing. Yeah, because 3 weeks is a pretty good difference. And I'm not quite sure what your care provider or, what situation you're in. But that could become rather complicated. So if someone's measuring regularly, those can be some other clues, but you want the same person doing that. So by that, I mean measuring your uterus with the tape. Gaining weight, going back and looking at your records. When did you first feel the baby move? When did you first hear with the Doppler? When did you first hear with the fetoscope? So you're having to play detective. If you're having to stand your ground because someone's going to want to induce you, because you're going to go to 43 weeks, then this is where that becomes relevant and can be quite confusing and a big deal. So sweet. Awesome. Well, you have someone that's aligned, then no worries. Really, it's great to have that kind of support, because otherwise, who wants to be treated like a number, right? That's terrible, even though that's the situation a lot of women are in. Cool. Okay, well, somehow we got through that quickly. And so let me go back to Ricky's topic, and maybe we can all, as best we can here, talk about that together. Oh, Dahlia had a thing too. The words we use. Yeah, that's a really great topic too. I think we each come up with our vocabulary as it suits us, and sometimes we screw it up. I, for example, for a while have tried, I don't always succeed, tried in calling labor the birth process, because that's what it is. And I think that's even a really cool conversation at some point to have with women, because there's things that happen before the birth process. There's lots of ways our bodies prepare. There's lots of sensations. There's lots of feelings. There is work being done, but yet it's not the birth process. So that to me makes more sense, even though I do occasionally slip and call it labor just because, it's less syllables. But labor, I think that's a great one to consider. Do we expect hard work? Do we need it to be hard? Kind of a lot of the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We talked about labor pain. So if that's new to you, you can check YouTube, and I have them all labeled as best as I can, so you can check that one out. And I know you were here for that, Dahlia, but I just mean anyone else. I think you were here. Anyone else that's curious about labor pain and all of that. Yeah, let's talk about Ricky's topic. I think that's really beautiful. and I think would feel good today to reflect on that because it is a solstice. And yeah, we're talking about birth and how we have all kinds of pieces come in for us individually to be able to be aligned with ourselves and I think the spiritual calling that is this work. So I'm not looking to be aligned with the state. I'm not looking to be aligned with medicine. I'm looking to be aligned with women and their families and my own knowing and my own guidance and that of spirit. Not everybody approaches birth that way, and that's fine. I think there's definitely a place for everybody. I think there are also women and families that appreciate this perspective and people that would like a different one. So we're all good there. So to kind of kick the topic off for a few minutes, I was in the mode of paying more attention this week because of our witchery class, right? It kind of trained us all well, or better, I think, to just notice and be more intentional. That was one of the key goals of bringing this group of women together. So for me, on Saturday, we had our last live class, and that morning I saw 2 deer out. And I took note of that, not just the symbolism behind the deer, but the 2. Because at first I just saw 1 and I said hello to it. And I was like, just kind of looking at it. I was going to take a picture and then I was like, put away, why would I take a picture of it? Just enjoy this deer, Sorry. And then I kind of peeked and there was a second deer, 2, I think, young male deer together, not deers. And so, yeah, I was interested in that. And I think they were both male, but it doesn't matter. In my mind, 2 is the balance, right? So 2 is the masculine and feminine. 2 is heaven and earth, right? There's so many cool ways to feel that as balance. And with Solstice here, or nearly here on Saturday, I very much felt that just practically in my life right now. I have Jason, right? He's my masculine counterpart. So I felt that, especially in this moving process, just that the balance of that and the balance of like control and surrender with this process. I did take note, and this isn't quite your topic here, Ricky, but I did take note that we have a lot of masculine energy coming in to support this move, which I thought was really interesting. So we have a male friend driving the truck. We have another male friend driving the dogs. We've had some other guys that are like willing to help. And on one hand, right, like moving is physical. So maybe that's why, but it doesn't quite feel like that because their energy is different. And it's not just like hired help showing up. Like these are people we care about. These are people that are investing time they don't need to invest in helping us. And so feeling that, what does that mean? What is this masculine energy about in this move? And I don't know, other than I feel like so much of it thus far has been the feminine, has been the unknown and the messiness and the surrender and like, all of that. So it's kind of being balanced now by the practicality of having some men involved. But let's talk about birth work. Oh, sweet. 2 blue jays. Yeah, and thank you all so much for the other comments. I'm not sure we're going to get to other topics today. And if you missed me saying at the beginning, I'm going to be taking next Monday and all of July off from this. So I really hope you'll all put it on your calendars for the first Monday in August. That way we can resume with a healthy bunch of people here doing that. And we'll, I'll have to have you repost them, but we will talk more. Yes, I think it's fair to say, and feel free to disagree, that in birth work in particular, there are those of us, and it's not everyone, that maybe we are more weighted towards the feminine because we do feminine work, right? We're sitting with women. And I don't know. I don't know everyone's experience, of course. I think there's certainly the medicalization of midwifery that to me is so heavily masculine. But yet, even within that system, I'm sure there are many midwives who are practicing or trying to in a highly feminine way, but then maybe there's conflict there because they're already in this like masculine, bigger system and it's difficult. And then I think if I'm feeling into it, and I could be wrong, but that's where a lot of like the burnout and stuff comes from, because you're trying to maybe follow that feminine instinct, like that following the curve, but you're in this system that is telling you how, when, and where. And that is a very difficult way to practice as a midwife, in my opinion. That's been my experience. So, even today I had a conversation with these people that I was speaking of that live in our new place. They're having a baby, and they're new because it's their first baby, and they're also new to a lot of these ideas, as I think a lot of the community there will be, because licensing just became a thing a couple summers ago. So I'm curious how these conversations will go, because there's this idea that, birth essentially is feminine, like at its core in all of the ways. And yet we've overlaid this masculine process on it in a million ways, from dilation, and you have to be 10 to push a baby out, to, how many hours do you get to push? How many hours can I be in labor? How many weeks can I be pregnant? It's like incompatible in a lot of ways. And I could feel the struggle in this woman just to understand where the feminine aspect needs to be front and center for her as the birthing woman. That's what I believe. You're not in your brain, and I don't think you probably should be, but she was more asking questions about the midwifery side, like I've just said, can I do this, or what happens if, or can I birth this way? It's like, yes, please. Like, you are the feminine creatrix. And that's what I said to her. You are the artist. You are femininity embodied. And it's not that we don't ultimately always have a balance. And that's where, a male partner can be really beneficial in a birth process, obviously. And even the midwife, sometimes we do balance it out, I think, in the masculine, in the sense of like, not controlling it, like from a legal perspective, like I was saying with the licensing. But for me, I'm also there to compute some things. I think I'm not just there to knit in the corner and pray, although I do that. I don't knit, but I will pray. I'm also there to, in the other room, look at my watch and be like, okay, well, this has been happening, and chart it down and make sure that I'm keeping up with the masculine detail of birth that once in a while we need to know, or can be complicated, or can require conversation or informed choice or decision making. So I think that's the way I think of it. The mother is holding down that feminine. And yes, we're all supporting in balance, hopefully, but from a place of integrity, from a place of purely feeling that that's the balance that's needed, rather than routinely holding down that, masculine, sort of like over controlling, must manage the situation, right? I think we all know what I'm talking about, because energies come in all flavors. So feminine isn't one way, masculine isn't one way. And to keep it simplistic, I think we're all familiar with the couple varied ways that those energies can look. So feminine energy also has the potential to be out of balance, right? Just as the masculine. And out of balance feminine energy, I'm sure we've all been there too. It's nowhere. It's nowhere grounded, perhaps, or there's nothing kind of holding it down. There's no core. There's no maybe even intention. It's just wild to the point of not being not serving us in whatever it is we're doing. So all of the things can go off masculine and feminine can both go off in unbalanced directions. So it's like, first we need to maybe think about how that is balanced on its own, right? And then the coming of those things together to create the ultimate balance. Yeah. And, to go off down a brief little rabbit hole, I think there's a whole lot of manifestations of the patriarchy that are hidden from us. And it's not my job to, point out all of the ones I see, because I'm sure I don't even see all of them. But, something like free birth comes up. There's a lot of that out there. And there's also a lot of imbalance in that, like not only a disdain for the patriarchy, but an ironic accepting back of still doing it away rather than flowing with what's needed, right? And I've also been witness to some of those situations where the actual male, the partner, and in his masculine energy completely overwhelms the feminine, and he kind of takes on this role of care provider. So I think there's a lot of gray right now and probably always. And I think that's also really interesting to talk about, because it's not just the licensed midwives. It's not just the OBGYNs that are representing that model to me. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've felt it in all kinds of ways. So it's just being mindful and, each making our own choices. There's no wrong or bad, but I think sometimes those are uncomfortable conversations too, and people aren't quite wanting to go there. And they feel that it's some kind of an attack on their choices. But, I just call it as I see it. People can do whatever they want. The charting and all of that stuff, honestly, Ricky, I enjoy it in the ways that it plays into my comfort and my assessment. And that's not the most fun word, but my interpretation of the situation, right? So it's not everything. A number is not everything. And most births that I've attended, nobody's interested in a lot of it. So, do you want to listen to the baby? Nope. Okay, well, feels good to me, feels good to them. And so there's not a whole lot of numbers. But if we're talking about a more, let's see how to say it, like a first birth. Let's just talk about first birth, Sometimes those go on for a while, and it can be over a couple of days, stop, start, or not, just kind of over a couple of days. And so I do find it helpful to keep myself grounded, to feel like I understand as much as I can that part. And there's definitely other parts. There's her whole emotional landscape. There's the partnership. There's all of it. But the part where there are numbers and there are charts, I'm not doing that for anyone else. I'm not doing that because I'm afraid of the state taking my papers. Or, I'm not doing that because I'm afraid of the state taking my papers. I'm doing that purely for me so that I understand and I don't get lost in this birth haze that isn't really mine, because that's not helpful. She can get lost in that, but I feel it is my duty to maintain a sense of awareness around what's happening. And I think there's a way to do that without doing it because you're accountable to someone else. So I guess that's the difference. Hopefully that answered your question. And sometimes that piece, that masculine piece, becomes important because you've been, 30 hours in at a birth, and if you haven't been paying attention, you don't even know what's going on. You just know it hasn't happened yet. But how is the mom doing? How is the baby doing? How long have the waters been open? Like, what's happening? And there's where I think midwifery skills are really super awesome. And I definitely will never understand, and this is me, I won't understand people just attending births without that piece. Because for me, I need that piece. I want that piece. I can always do better with that. And, that is also engaging that part of myself, and that feels good and healthy to me. So like I said, if I was just wanting to sit at births and not think or analyze ever, then I would have done it that way. But I'm comfortable with the way I do it. And and I think the people that hire me want that. If they don't, then maybe they hire a doula. They're not interested in any of the clinical stuff, and that's fine. So just be clear about who you are, what you offer, and then people will choose, I think, based on what they need. Although there's certainly other conversation there because people don't entirely understand all of these perspectives. How could we expect them to when we have all sorts of words? Birth keeper, doula, midwife. People have no idea half the time who you are or what you're doing or what they're hiring unless you're super clear. So, if you're not interested or you're not skilled or you don't want to be around that piece, then you just got to be honest about it. But for me, that's always been a piece of understanding the situation. And sure, lessons learned all the time. How heavily do you weigh that masculine piece at any one moment? And there's all kinds of stories I could tell you around that I don't have time for today. But, even the opposite of what you would think. Sometimes that masculine piece of information is concerning. It's not what you want it to be, and everything's fine. So, it's got to be weighed with all of the other pieces, the intuition of the mother, the intuition of the midwife, the energy of the space. Do you feel like this is okay? Or even though everything looks great, maybe you don't feel like it's okay. So that's what keeps birth interesting. The fact that if we had all the perfect pieces to fit together at the perfect time, if that made the perfect birth, then I don't know about you. That might be nice to some people, but also there's not a whole lot of mystery there. So I think we're definitely embracing the mystery as a part of this path. And I loved your question today, Ricky. I love this conversation. I'm sure I could babble about it for many more hours, probably, just this idea of balance and how to bring in different aspects. And really, there might be some births, like I've said, that are maybe imbalanced, and that's perfect. They're purely the feminine, right? There's not nothing needed for this mom and baby. And we have to trust that that's what she needs, right? So it's not our balance, it's the balance of the universe, the balance that this mom and baby is creating. So we're not judging it, I hope. I mean, we try our best from the outside to not. But again, politics and all of this can get in the way because then we're not paying attention. We're saying, nope, this is the way it goes. This is the piece that's needed. We always do the same thing. So not my circus, as they would say. Yes, we could talk about it till I get to Kentucky. But I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to do one last lunch here with a very dear friend, and I'll see you all in August. Yeah, I love that, Gabriella. Cool. Well, we can always, the conversation can always be continued over on the social. Not as fun, I don't think, but there are plenty of places to post over there and ask questions and start talking. So it's social.anybirth.org. I have a couple new podcasts this week if you didn't see. I have one with Christina, my dear, dear friend, who many of you have heard already on podcasts. We did one this week about burying our placentas, so I hope you enjoy that. And I have another one with Nathan out there where we talk about the way we pathologize birth and women. So take a fun listen to that because I was feeling pretty feisty about that one. I'm just so tired of normal, healthy women being told something is wrong just for fun. Like, why? Why do we need to do that? So go enjoy that. That one's, the one about the midwife and the OB. So 2 separate podcasts. No, Patty, I would love to see you virtually if you're into that. I am going to take off next week because it's my birthday and because we'll be traveling, but I'll do virtual stuff all July. And in fact, I have a couple of births to attend virtually. So that's going to be super fun. So yeah, just taking off July from Midwife Monday. So it gives me one less thing I have to do on Mondays as we get settled, but still looking forward to connecting with all the virtual people in that way. And I'll see you all back here the first Monday in August. So again, please mark your calendars because I don't want you to think I'm never going to come back to do this. I tried to get Margot to fill in for me, but she wasn't really into the idea, I don't think. She's super busy on Mondays. So Anyway, I love you all. Goodbye from Sedona, but see you back here on YouTube in August. Thank you for your well wishes and all of your love this whole time. This has just been a fun place to like blab, and I so appreciate you all holding space for me. Thank you so much. And thanks for the good wishes and birthday wishes. I wish you a wonderful month, a beautiful solstice. As we move into Leo energy, not quite far off here, or no, we have Cancer right now, and then we'll move into Leo before I see you. But thank you for all the wishes, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Talk to you guys all soon, couple of weeks. Bye.